Gary Banks. I don't think anyone in the country has spent more time wondering about how to make us richer and more productive than Gary Banks. He was the first head of our Productivity Commission back in 1998 when he looked like this. Chipper young man, and after 14 years there, then years heading the Prime Minister's Business Advisory Council and the Australian New Zealand Productivity School of Government, he looks like this. This sure is a man who was worried for Australia. And now it seems that Gary Banks has had enough of the rubbish that he's been seeing for so long. The trashing of our future, politicians playing stupid games with this economy, the sheer madness of it all. He has given an interview to the Australian front page news today. Our nation's stuck in reverse. Now, I know many Australians won't read it. It's about economics. That's boring, isn't it? But I tell you what, every single Australian will one day feel the truth of it. In fact, you're probably feeling it already. Now, I asked Gary to come on tonight, but he says he's always found TV or radio interviews stressful. And now that he doesn't have to do them for work, he doesn't do any at all. Totally understand, Gary, but I'll tell you what. Let me tell you what he says. For instance, and this is the big one. What our politicians are doing to us in their global warming madness is lunatic. Banks says our governments are now destroying our electricity system. There was once one of the world's cheapest. That's why we're so rich. We could afford to open factories and employ so many people. But any attempt, he says, to use evidence or logic in this argument against the global warming policies being implemented immediately brings you as a denier. Turns out people can't handle reason these days. And he says, now look, in the Ukraine, power stations are being destroyed by Russian missiles. In Australia, we blow them up ourselves. And that is literally true. Do you know that in one decade, our government, state and federal, helped to put 1/3 of our coal-fired electricity stations out of business? Some blown up. The Liddell coal-fired station is going to close this year to add to it. And then the giant Eraring one in a couple of years after that. Just 2 years from now. That's almost a quarter of New South Wales electricity, and the most reliable part of it, gone on top of what we've lost already. Now that's already crazy enough. But Banks, our great productivity expert, says, and we do all this without having a way to replace the critical 24/7 service they provide. As if that's still not bad enough, our governments are making it hard for gas to step into the breach. We're almost actively discouraging gas exploration, and is dismissing nuclear out of hand. Nuclear power is banned in this country. Can you believe that? More than 400 nuclear reactors around the world banned here. Talk about daft, he says. Daft, Gary, look, you're a productivity expert. I don't think words are your business. Daft doesn't even begin to describe what's happening. You try economic vandalism, economic suicide, absolute pure bloody lunacy. You're getting close. Because remember, we are doing this because politicians imagine there's a climate emergency. There's not. And they then imagine that doing all this stupid stuff, closing coal-fired power, that's going to stop it. When again, it won't, because we're just too small. This is a totally useless sacrifice. I know I've said it so many times, but it really is that simple. And the frustration is that it's that simple and that obvious, and we're still doing it. And the cost is going to be terrible. As Gary Banks said, electricity is already becoming a luxury. Think of the poor. If electricity is a luxury, think of the poor. It's so shocking. Now, you've already seen what's happened to your power bills. And our energy regulator, which has been cheering on this craziness, last month said, whoops, we could run out of electricity very soon. Sorry, it'd be nice. In fact, we're already paying some businesses to shut when power is short. Now, how much longer can that go on? We're not charging them for electricity, we're charging them we're paying them not to use it. Now, Banks also, in his piece in the Australian today, cited a lot of other problems that are making us poorer. I'll list them in a second, but this one is the biggie. And if you think, oh, look, it'll work, it should be right, more warning signs today, it's not going to be good at all. For one, you had our absolutely obsessed climate change minister, Chris Bowen, there in Parliament today, again boasting how much tougher is going to make the emissions cuts that are already hurting business is going to go on.
Our 200 biggest emitters across Australia, and our reforms will reduce emissions by 2030 by 205 million tonnes.
All those costs you'll pay. And key Senate crossbenchers today were actually saying, yes, we actually want even less coal and gas to power our country. The Greens, who seem like total religious maniacs, reason, forget it. They said they want no coal or gas at all.
If this safeguard mechanism doesn't stop new coal and gas, it will be a pointless exercise.
And then you look at the news today about what's supposed to be replacing it. It's just, I'm sorry, wind and solar really. Today, the company that's our biggest developer of wind and solar around the country says, no, wind and solar and storage costs, batteries, they're all jumping in price by up to 60%. It's just happened in the last couple of years, getting short. Now, even if these things, the solar, wind, batteries, even if they could replace coal, and they can't, not completely, not reliably, even if, they are going to cost a lot more than the government's been planning on. And again, you're going to pay for that as well. Where is this going to stop? In fact, it's finally so obvious how we're killing ourselves that the penny is finally starting to drop with people who are all for this global warming hysteria, in fact, who exploited it. Take Matt Keane, the New South Wales Energy Minister, a real warming fanatic. I don't know whether he believes it was just there for the votes. I don't know. But he's now suddenly realising, whoa, our state is running out of electricity with nothing to replace it that works. He's now saying, ooh, New South Wales government might now have to force the Eraring station not to close in 2 years. The government might actually have to pay a coal-fired power station to stay open after trying so hard to shut it down. Can you believe that? Actually getting that Ian Banks feeling, you know, that Australia's gone mad. I tell you what, there's only one sign of hope today, apart from Gary's piece. I've never rated Tasmanian Independent Jackie Lambie. I think she's a terrible populist. I don't like the way she screams in Parliament. But if I'm right, this populist is sensing now the public's anger with a very accurate antenna. Give her that, very accurate antenna. How fed up people are with all this global warming hysteria and the wreckage. That's why what she said today gives me hope. No, she said to the Albanese government's plan to hit businesses with even tougher emissions cuts.
I'm worried about some of those changes, especially when there hasn't been technology invented to reduce emissions.
Hey, that's what Gary Banks was saying, and the message is getting through. I just worry it's all too late. Big trouble is coming. And Gary Banks is just one more voice warning, pull up, pull up.